Welcome to Beyond the Dollar Signs, a podcast dedicated to helping you gain financial clarity in a complex world. I am your host, Mark Taylan, along with my colleague, Bill Tucker. Today, we have a special guest, Yau Lee, a family attorney out of the Bay Area. Yau, welcome back. It's great to see you again.
Happy to be back, Mark. Thank you for having me again.
You know, the last podcast we did was on the premarital agreements. And I've got to say, in my circle of, family and friends, as well as professional contacts, it really sparked a lot of conversations. And so I had to get you back. I said, I hope I can get you back on the podcast because I've got a lot of people want to know the tea, right? They want to know a little bit of the of what really happens in these conversations. So, today I just have a few questions for you. I know that, every scenario is a little bit different. But, one of the things that I often think about is, what advice would you give somebody that was thinking about bringing up the prenup, right? Because, I always think about the romance part of it, but how do you bring that up to the, your future partner?
Yeah, I think that's a very common theme or question that I get asked. And I think before approaching your fiance, let's say, on this topic, it's always good, I think, to have a consultation first with a family law attorney or give each other a heads up like, hey, we're getting married. And as you know, or if you don't know, it's a marriage contract. Maybe I think for us to get to know what are we signing up for legally, can we each perhaps schedule a consultation with a family law attorney? Because there are a lot of misinformation, stereotype, just information that might not be accurate out there on the internet. People think that prenup is like, I'm going to protect everything I have and you get nothing, or prenup is promoting divorce. But a lot of times that's not the case. So I think the first step is let's get some real information.
I see.
From an attorney first, and be open about, hey, let's say you want a spouse or soon to be married person really thinking about one. It's like you could even offer your fiance, it's like, hey, I will give you whatever hourly rate it will cost to do a consultation with someone. And so that you both are getting the same information. And then after you have a meeting with an attorney, then you guys can sit down and say, hey, what did you learn? What was something that was surprising to you? And how was your thought on the premarital, having a premarital agreement? So I think that could be a better first step rather than, hey, I want a prenup. Are you going to sign it? Can you sign one?
I see.
But rather, both of you get the information first.
So if I'm understanding correctly, are you saying that each party, each couple, or each person in the couple should have a separate meeting with a separate family attorney? Is that right? Because each party needs to be represented on their own. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yes. And whatever conversation you have with this attorney will be confidential.
I got it.
So you're free to ask any question you want. And a lot of time, I just recently had a friend who called or text me, should I get a prenup? Like, talk to an attorney about this. And a lot of time find a family law attorney. I have friends who just call up like, oh, this is my dad's uncle, or oh, this is my dad's colleague. But that attorney might not be familiar with family law.
I see.
So I think it's kind of like counseling, but differently. It's like you each have a private conversation with an attorney about what it means to be married. Like I have said in our last podcast, is what does it mean? And what does it mean to have a prenup? And then you guys come back together and have that discussion.
Do you find, I think of it as, divorce rates are very high. And certainly if you've been divorced a few times in your lifetime, you certainly have had some experience with a breaking of a marriage. But for newer couples, their first marriage, do you find that those conversations are different versus somebody that's kind of experienced, a bad marriage in the past? Because I hear different people, I have a lot of clients that their children are, this is their first marriage, right? And so they're walking into it maybe more from an emotional standpoint, but they haven't had that experience of, what if this goes wrong?
Yeah. So in my experience with newer couple is there's a, there's, they're almost coming in brand new. Like they haven't gone through the divorce, like a divorce. So, and I feel like there will be a lot more room, to talk about it.
Hmm.
And like, kind of, can you clarify with me some of the questions that you get asked when this is someone's second or third marriage? Like, help me like
Yeah.
understand a little bit better
Yeah.
where they're
Great.
coming from. Uh-huh.
Yeah, definitely. So, sometimes I'll meet a couple that, later in life, they're in their 50s or even 60s. And, maybe one of them, and they both are, maybe one's has a practice already and has assets and real estate, and the other, maybe they're equal. Sometimes maybe they're not. Maybe there's an inequality of assets. And so they're
Mm-hmm.
concerned about things like liability. What if something happens in that person's role and they get sued? What about my assets? They're worried about protection and what is the financial responsibility? And so
Mm-hmm.
I see them trying to merge lives, not only their lives, but their assets too. It's like, well, we're making all these decisions and we've got properties, we've got pensions, we've got all these things to consider. So those tend to be very straightforward. Like we probably do need a prenup. And some, one of the clients asked me and I said, you should go see a family attorney. Certainly I
Mm-hmm.
can help you list the assets and inventories, but you really need to both sit down with a family attorney and discuss this because
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot on each side, here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can see it from both sides. The person who they are a little bit older in their life and one has more assets than the other. Now, a premarital agreement can protect everything that one person built, the asset that this person built before marriage.
Mm,
But then now I think about from the other person's perspective is now that we're going to be married, can we at least be open to build something together?
mm,
I think that is the building what we have together while we're married and feel that if someday our relationship doesn't work out, this spouse or won't be left dry and hanging.
mm. I like what you said there. If it's kind of like if this relation doesn't work out, but I also do like the fact of where I see this often too is clients, and when they get married, they start to merge assets, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
maybe there's a line in the sand. Potentially, they say, from this point forward, what we built together, let's consider that a joint asset, or right, what we're growing together. Because sometimes it's not only, as I see it, it's not only the monetary value, but it's also the support from the other spouse, right? They both are contributing in different ways to grow the relationship and their assets, right? Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yes. And for the spouse or soon to be spouse coming in with less assets, a lot of time I see that they just want to build something together. It's
Hmm.
like, let's say, this person is in his 60s and soon to be wife has many different properties and all of that. I'm sure this person in his 60s would like to at least own a home together, build
Sure.
equity in a home, right? Retirement. So a prenup is to making sure that both sides are taken care of and protected. And when both sides understand that, I think it's a lot easier to get get an agreement drafted and move forward. Now, let me just give you an example. A while ago, I had a client. This is his second marriage, and they've been living together for a long time. And one of the nice things about this couple is that my client understands that just that they've been together for a while, that they should build something together. All he wanted is protect whatever that was before, like draw a line on the sand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just think that conversation is so important to have. It's not like I'm going to take everything I have. It's mine. Everything yours is yours. And we just not going to build anything together.
You know, I don't know if this is more of an estate planning question, but I also see people that in their 50s and 60s that have their own trust. You know, maybe they've already done the estate planning. So I guess I would assume that at some point, building a life together would may potentially be combining a trust or creating a new trust just for them. Do you see that at all?
Oh, I see that. Oh, very often.
Yeah.
I oftentimes will pull in. So I only practice family law. I don't do estate planning, but a lot of time I will have an estate planning attorney that I ask my client to consult with so that we can kind of merge those two things into the agreement. So have them think ahead, right? So prenup is if they get divorced, what would happen? And estate planning is when one passed away, what would happen? And I think both phase of life needs to be considered and plan ahead in this premarital agreement. So very often time, I will get an estate planning attorney to review my prenup, the prenup that I drafted, to add some provision about estate planning so that they think ahead. It's just really helping clients think ahead.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I like that. I mean, it's so a lot of planning. You know, it's certainly different for somebody later in life when, and not only when you've got assets, but you've got children, right? And that I think that's just a big thing. And you know, children of parents approach me and say, you know, when they get involved with the financial side of it and step in for maybe because the spouse has passed and I'm working with their children, one of the things they think about is if my mom gets married again, if my dad gets married again, I want to know that we're protected. They're definitely, you know, they're so insistent on a prenup. You know, they're concerned, of course, about somebody else inheriting their assets, and so I'm sure that comes up.
Yes, that's come off. So, and it's a conversation that everybody should have, frankly and openly together.
Yeah. So can you share? So let's say, you know, can you share like a really successful process? You know, you've met with a client and, you know, can you give me some successful, you know, success steps, I guess you would call it?
Yeah. So prenup is one of the area that I enjoy a lot because I feel like once it's done, I'm sending couples in their merry way. So in cases where I feel, and a part of it is because you typically the successful case, if we so call it, is when client comes in already understand what it like, have a very good basic understanding of a prenup.
I see.
Or they already had a conversation with their soon-to-be spouse of why they want a prenup. So they kind of already had that discussion. It's not just one discussion. It could be over a span of months, or maybe when they were planning their wedding, they started to have that conversation. So the attorney really come in just to make sure that what we put in the agreement is what each person wants. So it's kind of like, oh, I have an initial consultation with the clients. Like, we talked about this. These are the terms. Can you put it together?
I see.
And then when I send it to the other side's attorney, there's very few edits because they already talk among themselves.
Do you ever find it creates friction and somewhat puts a damper on the romance in the beginning. It's like, oh, we've got all this momentum. They get to this point where they're proposed, they're ready, they're excited, they're looking forward to the marriage. And then this comes up, and how do they react? I would guess it would be two ways. If they've done the research, I would imagine that they would come in with a different frame of mind. But if they haven't and somebody hits the other one off guard, I imagine that could potentially be a roadblock and potentially kill some of the romance, or just put a damper on the momentum, to be a couple together.
Yeah, the difficult cases that I get of prenup is when it's last minute dropping this idea, like wedding. It's like 3 months away, let's say, and then it's a destination wedding. Everything, invitation got sent out, and then now
then they have that conversation, right? If they waited too long.
oh,
Yeah,
that's really tough.
I see.
Those are tough ones because we don't really have a lot of time negotiating. Everything feels like a rush, a lot of emotions, and then one side, most likely, it feels like it's either I sign this or we don't get married.
Mm.
So, and people who talk to you, Mark, or people who listen to this podcast, one of the things that I would say is put this conversation way ahead of a relationship. Let's say the person who wants a prenup, it's like, I love this person that I'm going to be married to. I don't want this person to feel pressured in signing anything. Let's have this conversation way ahead of time.
Mm.
And for the other person, let's say the other soon-to-be spouse knows that the other person has a lot of funds. And I think that person needs to get ready to think maybe this prenup conversation will come up.
I see.
Might as well just bring up the conversation.
Have it now.
So I think it requires, yes, just have it now, have it way sooner. Because those are the hardest ones. It's like last minute, like at the like hour of the wedding. It's like, hey, let's get this going. Yeah. So it's good to think ahead.
I really like what you said about building it together. And it's really how you bring that conversation up to your partner, right? I think that's really the key is, we're committed to each other, but we want to build something together. But we both come to this with different experiences, and we both know, potentially what can go wrong. We've heard the horror stories. Maybe an attorney can help us kind of clear the air, right? If we both go and say, here are our concerns, because in some cases you're bringing children into this, and it's like, what does that mean if this doesn't go well?
Mm-hmm.
And rather than try to untangle a mess without a premarital agreement, we all have, it's very clear going into it what's in place.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes sense. If I was in that position, I would probably think of it that way. It's like,
mm-hmm.
what we built together is what we built together from this point on. But there's some things that we really need to address. I guess it's really tough, as you kind of weighing the logical and the emotional side of it. I can see that's pretty difficult. What are some, can you share like a really, a real tough one that you've seen? Like, what are some of the biggest resistance points you've seen?
I'm thinking, what are some of the situations where I'm like, or maybe I can offer some what not to do.
Okay. That's great.
And I'll just give two examples for today. One example is I once had a client who kind of they just both downloaded a template online.
Okay.
Of a prenup. And then they both sign and notarize it, thinking that is valid. Let's not do that. That's not a good. And then years later, 10 years later or 20 years later, they think this prenup is valid.
Yeah.
But all they had, it was just a piece of paper that doesn't mean much because they didn't have the attorney. A lot of the important terms were not in it. So let the attorney do this type of work
I see.
and don't trust anything online.
I got it.
Second tips or not, what not to do is do not read the agreement. I have had folks who say, you know what, I trust you. Whatever you give me to sign, I will sign it. And that person, and sometimes people would just hire attorney who doesn't do family law to review a premarital agreement just to check the box that they did it, that they had an attorney. But they didn't thoroughly review a document. And, sometimes a premarital agreement could be 15, 20 pages. I know. So, we just don't like to read.
Wow.
Right? A lot of times we just sign our name.
I agree. I've seen that.
Yes. And then, years later, I did not know what I was signing. I didn't understand. My attorney didn't explain everything to me. That responsibility is on us. Whoever signed the contract is to really understand what you're signing. So those are the two main things that I've seen. Like, if I could only go back in time.
Yeah.
Slow down.
I imagine that you've possibly consulted with people and they've pushed it, right? Or they wish they would have done something after the fact. Do you see that? It's like they were so anxious to move forward and they just addressed it later, but after the fact, it's too late, right? I mean, there's really nothing you can do once you've signed the marital contract. It's done, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's not a good situation to have. Like 10 years later, we'll finally pull that document up. Say, oh, that was what I signed 10 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
So I think it's always, I'm not saying that you want to put all your, just blindly trust whatever the other side says. Like, oh, he said it was only about this, or she said this agreement is only about these terms, but then there's other add-in things. So it's always our responsibility to make sure that we thoroughly review it. And it's worth the time. It's worth the time just to sit down, go line by line, maybe just section by section with someone, an attorney, a family law attorney, to review what you're signing. And it can eliminate a lot of later, oops, this is not what I meant type of situation.
In a typical consultation, can you tell me is it a retainer? Is it a flat fee for a consultation? Because I know a few people have asked me, I met with an attorney and it was $10,000, but I guess it would matter based on the complexity of the estate. But what is the typical path if somebody wanted to reach out to you? Is it a 1 hour consultation or is it a retainer? What's the process?
Mm-hmm. So yes, I would always start with a consultation. A consultation is kind of like you kind of want to feel that person out, interview each other, find out some information, find out whether it's a good fit, get some legal information. And it could be half an hour, it could be an hour. And then you can decide, or the person can decide whether to move forward with the professionals.
I gotcha.
So it's non-commitment. I have folks who will have couple maybe two conversation with me, and it just kind of gathers some information. So think of it like you're just gonna pay for the time that you spend with the attorney. And let's say you want to move forward, then it will most of the time will be a retainer.
I see.
But but people don't have to commit right away. Like for example, for couples who are starting a conversation, can just do a 1 hour, half an hour consultation with an attorney.
I was going to say, so, somebody would reach out to potentially you, and then the other partner would reach out to another family attorney. And then at some point, do you go to court and sign these? I mean, do the parties come to a table signing, or is it, how does that work? It seems, is it as formal as each party is at the table with their attorneys and they're reviewing and signing together? Is it that kind of sign off, or what is it?
Well, these days it's not that official. So a lot of it is like one, let's say like one spouse just work with his attorney to get this going. And then the other side do the same thing. A lot of time it's virtual. And then once we have a final agreement, then the couple would just come to one of the attorney's office and then have a notary there and they kind of sign it. So it's not that official.
Yes.
And a lot of time the attorney is not there to witness the signing.
Yeah.
So long as the signatures are notarized. And no, you never have to go to court. This prenup is private contract. It's not public information. So it's kind of casual.
Okay.
In a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I have folks who want their attorney there. That's fine too. But a lot of time people don't want to talk to us unless they have to. Yeah.
Final question as we wrap up here. Do you find after the prenup is signed and done that the couple through that experience has been a stronger relationship? Do you find that there's a little bit of relief after that process has been done? Most cases?
Yeah, the one that we mentioned that just goes smoothly because they already had a wait ahead of time, open conversation about this. And I feel like they are going into a marriage knowing what it means to be married, and how finances will be shared, how assets will be shared. And those are like I'll give them a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Like this is a really good foundation to start. And you know what? Why do we have such a high divorce rate? Because people don't want to talk about the uncomfortable.
I love that. You hit it right on the nose. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. I can't thank you enough for your time today. Can you tell us how clients would reach you? What's the best way? And it sounds like you can do virtual meetings as well.
Yeah, do a good amount of virtual meeting or in-person meeting. My office is in San Francisco. The best way is email me.
And folks, for those that are listening, we'll have Yau's contact information in the notes so you can reach out to her. Again, I want to thank you again for being on the podcast the second time. It's just a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Before we go, this is Bill. I want to jump in with one quick question because you talked about myths surrounding prenups. And it occurred to me, and I wrote it down here. I thought, is this only for people who have a lot of money? I mean, I think a lot of people think, oh, wait, I don't have much money, so I don't need to worry about this prenup situation. We both, aren't in a situation where there's anything really to dispute about. Is that true? Or, it sounded to me like your advice really applies to anyone who is looking at and wants to get married and engaged. But I think a lot of people think it's only for the people who have money, only for the wealthy, not for me.
I think everybody would have a retirement account. And now these days we have the Silicon Valley, right? Employee compensation a lot of time could come with RSU, stock options. Those are future assets that has some future values or assets with future values.
Mm.
And those are things, everybody should have a retirement account. I think just for that is to understand if you have a retirement account before you get married, what does it mean to this retirement account
mm-hmm.
if a divorce happens?
Yeah. As you build assets as a couple together, that first house and all of that, it's eventually at some point,
exactly,
there'll be assets to discuss if in the event of a split. Yeah.
Oh, great. This is a really, really interesting conversation. Thank you for coming back on with Mark to have it. So it's good to see you again. And Mark, thank you for facilitating this conversation because I think a lot of people, and I suspect this is what happened the last time Yau was on, people came to you and had all kinds of questions and they thought about things they hadn't thought about before, which made you think, I got to get Yau back on again.
They definitely did. And I thought, did you do that? So this has been great.
Wait a minute. I don't know. For those of you who are listening and you maybe you didn't catch Yau's contact information or how to reach out to her, don't worry. That'll be in the show notes. and you can look in there and get that information out. Mark, before we wrap things up, for people who are listening to this podcast who maybe want to reach out and have a conversation with you, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Probably just email or just reach out by phone, and my contact information will also be in the show notes.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. And for those of you who are not yet subscribers, subscribe. That's easy. Hit the follow button. The reason you do that is because once you are a subscriber, you're notified every time Mark puts out a new episode of his podcast, and you can give that one a listen. I would ask also that if you like this podcast, please tell people about it. Give it a good rating and let people know, because word of mouth promotion from people you know is so much better than some weird, anonymous, strange recommendation on the internet. Okay? Personal is good. Until next time, I'm Bill Tucker. Thank you on behalf of Mark and everybody here behind the dollar signs taking the time to listen today. We'll catch you next time. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Dollar Signs Financial Clarity. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at advisors360pwm.com or give us a call at 408-778-8280. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Advisors 360. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions that you may have regarding your investment planning. ECA does not provide tax or legal advice. Guest opinions are their own and may not reflect those of ECA. The viewer is encouraged to seek their own individualized tax and legal advice from a qualified professional.